We are wired for connection, for attachment, for holding on. We love deeply, fight fiercely, and grip tightly to the things and people we believe are meant to stay. But life doesn't always work that way. Sometimes, despite our best efforts, things fall apart. A friendship shatters, a relationship fades, a dream we built with every piece of our soul crumbles before our eyes, and we're left standing in the wreckage, wondering, how do I move forward? Ending something, whether it's a relationship, a job, a dream, or even a version of ourselves, is one of the hardest things we'll ever do. It's uncomfortable, it's terrifying, and yet it is often necessary. Because endings, as painful as they may be, are also beginnings in disguise. But here's the thing, we are wired to resist endings. We cling to what's familiar, even when it no longer serves us. We tell ourselves that if we just try harder, if we just give it a little more time, if we just change one more thing, maybe, just maybe, it won't have to end. We convince ourselves that holding on is a sign of strength, when in reality, it takes far more courage to let go. Courage is not the absence of fear, it's the decision to act in spite of it, and nothing requires more courage than standing at the edge of something we once loved, something we once believed in, and choosing to walk away. But why is it so hard? Because endings come with grief. Even when we know deep down that something needs to end, even when we recognize that staying is breaking us, we still grieve the loss, we grieve what was, what could have been, what we hoped for. And grief doesn't follow a straight line. It's messy, it comes in waves. One moment we feel strong, certain in our decision. The next, we're drowning in doubt, questioning everything. And so we stall, we delay the inevitable, not because we don't know what to do, but because we're afraid of what comes after. The silence, the uncertainty, the space where that person, that dream, that identity used to be. But here's what we forget. When we refuse to let something end, we are choosing to live in limbo. We are choosing to stay stuck, suspended between what was and what could be. And that space, it's exhausting, it drains us, it keeps us small. The courage to end isn't about being sure, it's about being honest. Honest with ourselves about what is no longer working. Honest about what is breaking us instead of building us. Honest about what we need, even when it means disappointing others. And let's be real, there will be people who don't understand, who tell us we're making a mistake, who ask, why would you walk away from something so good? But only we know what it costs to stay. Only we know the weight of holding on when our hands are already bleeding from the grip. So what if we gave ourselves permission to stop fighting, to stop justifying, to stop waiting for the perfect moment, and just accept that this is where the road ends? Because when we do, when we finally choose to end what is no longer meant for us, we don't just walk away from something old, we walk towards something new. And that right there is where freedom begins. Letting go is one of the hardest things we will ever do. Not because we don't know how, but because we don't want to. Because it hurts, because it feels unnatural. Because even when we know deep down that something is no longer meant for us, there's a part of us that still holds on, gripping tightly to the memories, the love, the dream of what could have been. And that's the thing about letting go. It's never just about the thing we're releasing. It's about all the hopes, expectations, and pieces of ourselves that we wove into it. Letting go means grieving, not just for what was, but for everything we thought it would be. And grief is messy. It doesn't move in a straight line. It doesn't follow a schedule. One day we feel strong, ready to move forward. The next, we are hit by a wave of sorrow so strong it knocks the air from our lungs. One moment we convince ourselves that we've let go, and the next we catch ourselves reaching for something that isn't there anymore. That's what makes letting go so painful. It's not a single choice, but 1,000 choices. A decision we make again and again every time we are tempted to turn back. Why is it so hard? Because we attach meaning to the things we hold on to. A relationship isn't just a relationship. It's the laughter, the inside jokes, the late night talks, the version of ourselves that existed when we were with that person. A dream isn't just a dream. It's the years we poured into it, the sacrifices we made, the identity we built around it. When we let go, it feels like we are losing more than just the thing itself. It feels like we are losing a piece of who we are. And yet holding on to something that is no longer meant for us is its own kind of pain. It weighs on us. It keeps us stuck in a cycle of what ifs and regrets. We replay old conversations, searching for the moment where things went wrong. We rewrite the past in our minds, trying to convince ourselves that if we had done something differently, we wouldn't be here, facing this loss. But here's the truth. Some things are meant to be let go, not because they weren't beautiful, not because they didn't matter, but because we have outgrown them or they have outgrown us. Letting go isn't about pretending it didn't matter. It's about accepting that it mattered deeply and still knowing that it's time to move forward. It's about trusting that even though this chapter is closing, the story isn't over. But we have to feel the pain. We have to sit with it, let it move through us instead of running from it. Because pain that is ignored doesn't disappear. It lingers, waiting for us in quiet moments, sneaking up on us when we least expect it. The only way to truly let go is to allow ourselves to feel every ounce of the hurt, to grieve what we lost, to acknowledge what it meant to us. And then, little by little, day by day, we loosen our grip. We stop searching for answers we will never get. We stop reopening wounds that need time to close. We stop waiting for an apology that may never come. We let the pain shape us, but we do not let it define us. We carry the lessons, the love, the growth, but we do not carry the weight. Because the pain of letting go is real, but so is the peace that comes after. Healing is not a straight line. It's not neat, predictable, or something we can check off a to-do list. It doesn't follow a schedule, and it certainly doesn't care about our timelines. Healing is messy, nonlinear, and deeply personal. Some days it feels like progress, like we are finally moving forward, lighter, stronger. Other days it feels like we've been dragged back to square one, drowning in emotions we thought we had already worked through. And that's okay. That's part of the process. Because healing is not about erasing the past. It's not about pretending the pain never happened. It's about learning how to live with it without letting it consume us. It's about carrying the memories without carrying the weight. But let's be honest, healing is hard. It requires patience. It requires honesty. It requires us to sit with our pain instead of running from it. And that is where most of us struggle. We live in a world that glorifies moving on quickly, that tells us to get over it and be strong, as if grief and healing are things we can rush. We are taught to distract ourselves, to numb the pain, to bury it under work, relationships, or busyness. But healing doesn't happen when we ignore the hurt. It happens when we face it. It happens in the quiet moments when we allow ourselves to feel, when we stop pretending we're okay and admit that we're still hurting, when we cry over things that no longer exist, when we grieve the version of ourselves that we lost along the way. Healing asks us to be brave, to stop looking for closure in places that will never give it to us, to stop reopening wounds that need time to close, to stop searching for explanations that won't change what happened. Healing means forgiveness, not always for others, but for ourselves. For the times we stayed too long, for the times we ignored red flags, for the times we weren't kind to ourselves in the process of letting go. But here's the truth, no one really talks about healing is lonely. because no one can do it for us. People can support us, love us, hold space for us. But at the end of the day, healing is an inside job. It's late nights wrestling with memories. It's mornings where we wake up and have to remind ourselves why we left, why we chose to walk away, why we are choosing ourselves. And it takes time, longer than we want, longer than we think it should. But one day something shifts. One day we wake up and the weight feels lighter. One day we hear a song, see a place, or revisit an old memory, and it doesn't hurt the same way. One day we catch ourselves laughing, really laughing, and realize that we didn't have to force it. One day we realize we are no longer surviving, we are living. That is healing. It doesn't happen all at once. It doesn't mean we forget. It means we learn to carry our past differently. It means we take the lessons, the strength, the growth, and we leave the rest behind. Because healing doesn't mean we go back to who we were before. It means we step into who we are becoming. And that is the most powerful thing we can do. Holding on is exhausting. We don't realize how heavy something is until we finally set it down. Until then, we carry it, sometimes for months, sometimes for years, dragging it with us into new places, new relationships, new versions of ourselves. We tell ourselves we've moved on, but in the quiet moments when no one is watching, we know the truth. We are still holding on, but why? Why do we grip so tightly to things that are hurting us? Because letting go feels like losing, like admitting, like saying that all the love, all the time, all the energy we poured into something no longer matters. We convince ourselves that if we hold on just a little longer, things might change. That person might come back, that situation might get better, that closure we're desperate for might finally arrive. So we stay. We replay old conversations in our minds, dissecting every word, searching for the moment where things went wrong. We keep rereading old messages, looking for signs, for meaning, for answers we will never find. We hold on to the pain, the resentment, the anger, thinking that if we just keep feeling it, we'll somehow make sense of it. But all we're really doing is keeping ourselves stuck. Because here's the thing about holding on. It doesn't stop the past from being the past. It doesn't change what happened. It doesn't fix what's already broken. What it does do, however, is weigh us down. It keeps us anchored to something that no longer exists. It takes up space that could be filled with new love, new joy, new beginnings. And yet we resist letting go. Because as painful as it is to hold on, the idea of release is even scarier. Who are we without this thing we've clung to for so long? What happens when we finally stop hoping, stop waiting, stop reliving? The unknown is terrifying, so we convince ourselves that carrying the weight is easier than facing what comes after. But the weight of holding on seeps into every part of our lives. It's the exhaustion we can't explain, the bitterness that lingers, the way we build walls around ourselves, afraid to trust, afraid to try again. We don't just hold on to the past, we carry it with us. And it shapes how we show up in the present. We weren't meant to live this way. We weren't meant to walk through life burdened by things that no longer serve us. We weren't meant to stay in places that drain us. We weren't meant to keep reopening wounds that need time to close. At some point, we have to ask ourselves, what is this weight costing me? Is it worth my peace, my joy, my future? Because the truth is, we cannot receive what is meant for us if our hands are still full of what was. We cannot step into what's next if we're still carrying everything that came before. Yes, letting go is painful, but so is holding on. And only one of those paths leads to freedom. There is a moment, subtle, quiet, almost imperceptible, when we realize that we are no longer carrying what once weighed us down. A moment when the past, which once felt like chains around our heart, begins to loosen its grip. A moment when we exhale, not out of exhaustion, but out of relief. That moment, that is the freedom of release. But before we reach that moment, we struggle because letting go doesn't happen all at once. It's not a single choice, but a series of choices made over and over again. It's waking up every morning and deciding not to reach for what hurt us. It's resisting the urge to reopen old wounds just to feel something familiar. It's choosing day by day to loosen our grip on something that once felt like everything. And yet, the idea of release can be terrifying because for so long, we have held on to our pain, our heartbreak, our disappointment, sometimes even our anger, like armor. We have wrapped ourselves in it, made it part of our identity, convinced ourselves that without it, we wouldn't know who we are. We tell ourselves that if we let go, it means that what we went through didn't matter, that the love, the effort, the sacrifices we made were meaningless. But that is a lie. Letting go does not erase what happened. It does not mean we were wrong to care, wrong to try, wrong to hope. It simply means we are choosing ourselves now. It means we are releasing the grip of the past so that we can step fully into the present. And what does that look like? It looks like waking up one day and realizing that the old memories no longer sting the way they used to. It looks like being able to think about someone who once broke our heart without feeling that familiar ache in our chest. It looks like laughter that is no longer forced, joy that is no longer shadowed by the past, and love, real, deep, wholehearted love that is no longer guarded by fear. Freedom is the moment we stop waiting for an apology that will never come. It is the moment we stop needing closure from people who could never give it to us. It is the moment we stop reliving a past that no longer serves us. Freedom is no longer needing to prove our worth to people who never saw it. It is no longer punishing ourselves for mistakes we made when we didn't know better. It is no longer defining ourselves by what happened to us, but by how we rose from it. And here's the most beautiful part of release. When we let go, we make space. Space for peace, for healing, for new beginnings. Space for love that isn't built on pain. Space for dreams that aren't attached to old versions of ourselves. Space for a life that isn't dictated by the past, but by the endless possibilities of the future. Yes, release is hard. It is painful. It is a process that requires patience and courage. But on the other side of it, there is freedom, the kind of freedom that feels like sunlight on your skin after a long winter. The kind of freedom that allows you to finally breathe deeply and fully without the weight of yesterday pressing down on you. So let go, not because what happened didn't matter, but because you matter more. There is something profoundly beautiful about a new beginning. It is a second chance, a fresh start, an open road stretching before us, waiting to be written. But new beginnings are rarely easy. They are born out of endings, sometimes painful, sometimes unexpected, sometimes long overdue. They come after the storm, in the quiet aftermath of what was lost, demanding that we take a deep breath and step forward into the unknown. And that takes courage. Because as much as we long for a fresh start, a part of us resists it. We hesitate, looking back at the past with nostalgia, wondering if we are truly ready to leave it behind. We second guess our decisions, replaying old memories, questioning whether we made the right choice. We fear stepping into something new because what if the new is just as painful? What if we fail? What if we get hurt again? But here's the truth. New beginnings require faith. Faith in ourselves, in the journey ahead, and the idea that what is coming is greater than what we left behind. Because every new beginning is a declaration. I choose to move forward. I choose to grow. I choose myself. But the power of a new beginning isn't just about stepping away from the past, it's about stepping towards something greater. It's about allowing ourselves to dream again, to hope again, to believe that we are not defined by what happened to us, but by how we rise from it. A new beginning is an invitation to rediscover ourselves, to learn who we are without the things that once defined us, to explore what makes us come alive, what sets our soul on fire, what brings us joy. It is an opportunity to create new memories, to build something meaningful, to surround ourselves with people who see us, value us, and uplift us. But here's the thing about new beginnings. They don't always come with certainty. They come with fear, with discomfort, with moments of doubt. They come with the weight of everything we've been through, whispering to us that maybe it's safer to stay the same. Maybe it's easier to hold on to what's familiar, even if it no longer serves us. But the power of a new beginning is found in our willingness to embrace the unknown, to trust that even though we can't see the whole path ahead, taking the first step is enough. And make no mistake, new beginnings don't mean erasing the past.